What about the Good Samaritan? That's the main story, right? What's the main story of the Good Samaritan? A stranger. So let me just say this to us because for some of us, service, like any other thing, is really part of who we are, part of our DNA, part of our character, that it's easy for us. Some of you, service is easy, right? It becomes a natural outflow of who you are. Even before Jesus came into your heart, even before you gave your heart to the Lord, service for you was easy because it was part of who you are. It was part of your DNA. It was part of how God made you to be you, right? For some of us, service is hard because we're introverted people. We like our space, and God bless those who try to burst into our bubble. You know what I'm saying, right? Some people come into your personal space. I didn't even know this. I mean, it's funny how life brings learning, brings. I didn't even know this idea of personal space because I know I'm that guy that breaks everybody's personal space. Because if I'm going to meet you, I'm coming right at you, right? And I'm not worried about, hey, shaking your hand, whatever. I'm just coming in right into your personal space. And some of you who first met me probably thinking, that guy, I don't know about him, right? So now we're learning these things about personal space. Like, really? Some of you are like, yeah, I wish that we would have learned it a lot sooner. Now, I wish I would have learned that a lot sooner for me, right? So when we talk about service, this idea this morning, this idea of serving others reflects Christ's selfless love and embodies living for Him is a powerful idea. When we think about service as a way to reflect Christ's love, for me to live as Christ and to die as gain. When I am serving, I am reflecting Christ's selfless love. Because right, the idea of the cross is Christ's selfless love. It's He who knew no sin became sin for us so that we who were sinful creatures can come and make its way back to the Father. Right? So that when I think about service, if a paradigm shift can happen, if I think about service as a way for me to reflect Christ's selfless love, service takes on a different idea, right? Because for most of us, service is a sacrifice. For most of us, service is, do I really have to? Like, well, my kids aren't here, so that's great. I can talk about them this morning. Like, I got to bribe my kids. Like, chores. Okay, I'm going to take the trash to the trash container, and it's 25 cents to do that. So you can earn money for BGMC. So now it's 25 cents to take the trash bag into the container. It's 25 cents. Selfless love says, you don't have to pay me anything. I do it because I love you, Dad. Am I right? Am I right? So what do we do when we think about service? Do we think sometimes service becomes an inconvenience for us because I'm helping others? I really don't want to help others, but Christ tells me to help others. That idea, right? Whereas if we think about service, and our main idea this morning, that serving others reflects Christ's selfless love and embodies living for Him, then maybe service is a turnaround for us. Maybe that when we think service as being able to embody the love that Jesus showed me on the cross, as I serve, I am participating, think about this, I am participating in Christ's work at the cross. How about that? That as I serve, I am embodying what Jesus did on the cross for me. That as I serve, not only do I embody his sacrificial love for me, that's how I begin to fully embody what it means to live for Christ and to die as gain. That I can, as I serve others, I am living for Jesus. Right? So, some things to think about this morning. Service mirrors Christ's humility and sacrifice, aligning with to live as Christ in Philippians chapter 1, verse 21. Listen to this verse of Scripture in the same book, a couple of paragraphs after Philippians 1, chapter 2, verses 5 through 7. Look what Paul says. Having the same mindset as Christ Jesus, he made himself nothing by taking on the very nature of a servant. So what do we mean by this? That when I am participating in service, as that becomes part of my life, as I'm putting that discipline into my life, what it's actually doing is help me in the areas of humility and sacrifice. How many of you have prayed, God, help me to be more humble? Right? Could it be that when we participate in acts of service, that act becomes an act of humility? Because I say, I'm going to put on the mind of Christ, who thought it not robbery to be equal with God, but humbled himself, becoming obedient even to the point of death. Sacrifice and humility is the bedrock of service. You can't truly serve unless you put yourself in a humble position and you sacrifice. For most of us, what's the biggest sacrifice? Self and pride. Right? Acts of service is a humbling of ourselves to say, self, I'm not going to put you first. I'm going to put others first. And self, you ain't as good as you think you are. Right? Let me give you a revelation for your pastor. Part of this can become very culturally driven. So let me give you just those of you that have not known me very well or very long. As you all know, I'm not white. And if you said, yes, Pastor, I'm like, man, you have really good eyesight. You have incredible discernment that you are not white. I know, right? So for those of you who don't know, I'm Filipino. I'm Asian at birth. This is a great, I've said this to you all, and let me just digress for a moment. Right now, we're a minority. But when we get to heaven, we're going to be a majority. Just want to let you know that. And for those of you who love potatoes more than rice, you better start changing your eating habits. Because when we get to heaven, you all are going to start eating rice. Because there's going to, just to let you all know, there's going to be more of us than you when we get to heaven. Because right now, I think we're like 2 billion, I think 2 or 3 billion. I mean, China alone has 1 billion. Like there's a bunch of us, man, and the church is growing in China. You know what I'm saying? So I just digress. Let me come back. Um, so growing up, and I didn't know this, by the way, because you're a kid, you don't know it, right? You haven't put, you haven't connected the dots together. Growing up as a kid um, in the Philippines, because of my grandpa, who was a who was a soldier and was became an American citizen, became because of that receive uh, his his citizenship, but his pension through the U.S. government. Um, we were probably, I would say, probably upper middle class in the Philippines, and of course, there you don't really. There's really you're either rich or poor, I guess. It would be a good way to do that back in the day. So our home, and I didn't even know this, our home had two or three helpers. Um, and my mom told me, and I didn't know this because I don't remember it. My mom told me, my grandma told me, my mom said that I didn't have to carry my books to school like most kids my age. Now, mind you, I left the Philippines when I was 10 years old. So I'm in grade one, probably grade 10 is what, third grade, fourth grade, right? So grade one, two, and three. Um, I didn't have to carry my books to school. I guess one of our helpers carried it for me. My mom didn't bring me to school. She brought me to school. She went and picked me up. We had helpers to cook at the house, to clean the house, to do whatever it was necessary for the house. That's the home that I lived in. So, backtrack. We come to the United States, and there's 10 of us, um, five of us little boys. We're in a house, and my mom and my grandparents told us we had chores. God forbid, whoever puts a 10-year-old with chores? And my chore was, because I was the oldest, and apparently, in my mind now, I'm thinking I'm the oldest, so I could do a better job than the rest of my little brothers. My chore was to clean the bathrooms, especially uh, uh, especially the bathrooms where all the boys went. To this day, I'm telling you already. I'm letting you in the psyche. To this day, I hate cleaning bathrooms. It wasn't a chore, it was a punishment. Think about this. Think about if I learned, think about if I learned, I'm just saying that to you to now say to this 67-year-old self, if he could talk back to the 10-year-old self, who, if at that point in his life had given his heart to Jesus, to talk back to him and say, every time you bent down and was wiping your brother's urine on the floor and around the bath, and you were wiping that and hating every bit of it, could it be that when you were doing that, you humbled yourself, becoming obedient to the point of death? You didn't think of it robbery to be equal with your parents so that you can pawn it off to somebody else, but you humbled yourself, and it became an act of service to you so that you become more like Jesus every time you bent down on the ground and you wiped that as a sacrifice to the Lord. I wonder, I wonder the spiritual discipline that would have carried me to the rest of my adulthood, and what you teach your children. So let me just suggest to you, as a way for us to talk about discipline to talk about service as a way for us to reinvent service into our own practical lives so that it doesn't become chores. Maybe it becomes service to the Lord. Maybe it becomes service to others. Maybe it becomes service that as I participate in service, I become more like Jesus. I deny myself, I humble myself, and it becomes for me a sacrifice that aligns myself to this idea that that Jesus on the cross is able to be lived out in my own life. Something to think about. Second thing, that service becomes an act of love. That it's an act of love that we demonstrate Christ's presence to others. And listen to Matthew's Gospel 25, verse 40. Whatever you did for one of these, the least of these, your brothers and sisters, you did for me. That's really pretty powerful. That what you do as an act of service, you do as if Christ was the one you were serving. Okay? Any thoughts so far? All right. Too early in the morning. Finally, let me talk about this. Service shifts our focus from self to others, deepening our commitment to Christ's purposes. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 10, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's service. Now, think about what we just learned this morning, okay? Now, let me just tie this into the very mission of this church. And to tell you that when you sign on to membership, when you walk through, and most of you in this room are members of Commission Church. You went through this process that we implemented here at this church. One of the things that if you look back to the covenant that you signed, each and every one of you, is that you said that you would serve. Okay? Now, I'm going to just lay there, okay? Because one of the things that is really important in the life of this church is that we become people ultimately, and I'm not here to just talk to you about service as a way to earn your points for God, right? I'm here to suggest to us this morning that service is a lifestyle that Jesus demonstrated for us. And if we are to be followers of Jesus, right, we ought to participate in that same lifestyle, right? There's the text, and I don't have it here, but Jesus says, for the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom for many. Thank you so much, Pastor Rich. Mark 10, what's the verse? Verse 35? Are we fact-checking Pastor Rich this morning? Oh, no need to. He's an walking encyclopedia. So here's the deal. Jesus says, for the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. So I'm suggesting that one of the things that is terribly wrong, let me just say this to you. One of the things that is terribly wrong with the modern evangelical church, and here's just a kind of a high-level view of the modern evangelical church today, is that What we like is we like everything to serve us. The evangelical church of today is, think about it, when you walk in, man, you got to make sure that you have coffee because we forgot breakfast this morning. Coffee and donuts got to be there. This is, how many modern church today doesn't have at least a coffee place? Think about it. All the top churches in our area, name me one that doesn't serve coffee. I can tell you, start naming them off. Name the biggest churches that we have in our city. I guarantee you every one of them has a coffee bar, at least. Huh? Not the Mormons. Really? Not the Mormons? Huh? All right. Well, so think about this. So you have this. You have to have the right lighting, the right temperature. You don't want it to be hot, too cold, whatever, right? Except for your kids. Stuff for your kids. Yeah. You know, think about this. The modern evangelical church of today is about catering to you and your needs. It's about consumerism. And that is antithetical, let me just say this to you, that is antithetical to the gospel of Jesus. Could you imagine Jesus walking into the church and saying, hey, you got to have coffee for me this morning. You got to have this. You got to have that. You got to have this. You got to have that. Right? It is antithetical to the message of the kingdom. It is not about you consuming. It is about you serving. And that, by the way, just gnaws at us. How dare the pastor talk about service? Here's the deal. Well, I give my tithe. That's enough. I gave. I showed up. That's enough. That I bless them with my presence. Right? So when we talk, by the way, and I know this, thinking about today's lesson, I know this. We are striking against the very core of modern church systems. I'm talking to you about the most important things in the life of Jesus. That Jesus didn't come to be served. He came to serve others. He gave his life as a ransom for many. And if all of us are concerned about being followers of Jesus, if that is truly our heart, then at the very core of our being is this attitude that I've come to this church and I made myself a member. I signed the covenant, and what that means is I'm going to live a life of service. I am going to serve not just this church. I'm going to be a person who serves. I'm going to think of others more than I think of myself. Why? Because that's who Jesus is and was. And that's who Jesus modeled for us. So that if I just come to Sunday and I just sit in the service and that's it, that's my participation, then I'm going to suggest to you that you have missed it. Right? Why is this important? It's important primarily because this is the life of Jesus. It's important because service as a spiritual discipline in your life places you in a place of humility and sacrifice. It kills pride. It kills this idea that everything centers on me. And if I don't get my needs met, then I'm going to go next door. Right? This is what happens. You know what I see when people move from one church to another, to another, to another? It's not because they don't like the pastor and whatever. It's there was a need in their life that they didn't want, that they felt like wasn't getting met, and so they left. Well, the pastor was a terrible preacher. And he wasn't giving me the meat of the word. You know, I want to get deeper into God. And he was shallow. Really? This is the church, the state of the church. And I'm here to suggest to us that's not what Jesus modeled for us. I'm here to suggest to us that the life of the church is about you and I humbling ourselves in service to others. And when we fight against that, when we don't want to serve, right, then we are fighting against the very heartbeat of God. And that's not his intent. Amen? All right, questions for me today? Yes, ma'am. Would you like this? By the way, I'm glad I'm talking about this morning. As you all know, we will be. I don't know if have we put it out yet. You have. There is a members meeting that is scheduled on October the 19th for the 9 o'clock hour, the discipleship hour. So if you are a member of Commission Church, please make sure to put that down. So most of you are in here are probably all members. You already make it to discipleship hour. Please make sure that you come that Sunday. It's important for us as a church. We're going to be sharing some things with you, and it aligns itself to this idea of service. And it's important for you to be here because we're at a tipping point as a church, and we have to make decisions that are crucial for us if we are to do and follow the Lord's plan for our church. But it involves each and every one of us, and it involves a life of service for each and every one of us. Things that, anyway, I don't know about you, but God needs you. Our church needs you. And it's important that you exercise the gifts God has put in you. Because that's the only way, as Lisa suggests, that's the only way that you can thrive, grow, and be successful. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the hardest. That's a crucial piece, Jan, is that when we even talk about our own mission statement to commission and mobilize passionate followers of Jesus to encounter God, connect with others, that in service we then become connected to one another, right? We serve together, and because we serve together, we get to know one another, right? Some of you have formed friendships because you're in ministry together. Yeah. Any other comments? Now think about it. See, here's the deal. Think about this. Some of you understand this even more. Like in service, sometimes people don't understand this is the stuff that happens, a lot of it behind the scenes that you don't even think about, right? Like for those of us who are here, like enjoying the service with the worship and all of that on Sunday morning, well, right behind us is kids area, right? And you are grateful to be able to take your kids to our kids area, but guess what? They're serving in there, right? So that you can enjoy a Sunday morning service here in the sanctuary. But look at behind the scenes, right? Because and one of the things that we do for Family Sundays is we try to incorporate our children in our worship. So not only can we model to them what it means to worship God on a Sunday and be with us as a family to worship together, but it also helps our kids' areas so that they don't have to serve, and every week they're serving there, right? So it gives them that kind of time off so that they can enjoy the service, right? But some of you know that it's really not a time off because there's other areas where kids are still meeting and we need help, like preschool and nursery still meeting even in family, right? So it's important. Some of you, like the worship team, they're here at 8 o'clock in the morning preparing. Most of you, the people that come in on worship at 10:15 and now in 30 minutes from now, they didn't know that at 8 o'clock the worship team was already here. That's a 2-hour commitment prior to you walking into the building to worship the Lord. That's sacrifice, right? They don't know that. All they might know is, oh, gosh, it's too loud. Lower that thing down. Wow. These folks were here at 8 o'clock trying to prepare themselves to minister to the Lord and to you. Give them a little grace. Right? This is what service does, right? And understanding. Anything else? All right, make sure October the 19th at 9 a.m., you put that down on your calendar. We need you to be here. We're going to talk about a couple of things that's important for our church, and we need all of you to be here to join us that morning. All right, God bless you all. We'll see you in about 30 minutes.